Hello, friends, and welcome back to the channel. We have a super fun discussion for you tonight, and this time it's all about the titles, or the title. I should say, as we'll be going through a list of possible candidates for what Amazon may be choosing for the upcoming Lord of the Rings TV show. And we're, of course, working under the assumption that the title isn't simply Lord of the Rings on Prime. And here to speculate away for your viewing and listening pleasure is our lovely panel of co-hosts tonight. So first of all, please give a warm welcome to the talented Nikki. Hi, Nikki.
How's it going?
Great to see you. And next up, let's give a round of applause for Hen. Hey there.
Hi.
And last but not least, hello, Kyle.
Evening, everyone. Great to be here.
Great to have you, Kai Guy. So tonight, like we mentioned, we're going to be talking all about the titles. Now, some of you may remember a few months ago, some of you guys, Nikki, Hen, and Fellowship, and I think Tolkien Tube, already did a really cool tier list involving a lot of the titles that we're also going to be mentioning tonight. And this is how it's going to work tonight. So we've prepared a list of 20 titles that we believe could be an interesting fit for Amazon's show. And we'll take turns presenting the suggestions and just give our opinions on the picks and how likely they're to be chosen, etc. And then we have a fun little round at the end, so stick around for that. So we're going to have some fun. And so this is it, guys. You ready?
Ready to go.
Okay, so Hen, do you want to give us your first one?
Right. Mine, I have them written down. I wasn't very good at this. So let's see. So I'm not going to wager too much for or argue too much in favor of my names, but I did have a name which I think is from Tolkien, The Rise of the Shadow. You know, it sits well with the premise that Amazon had, the synopsis that we have from Amazon. And it's, a nice title. Slightly ominous sounding, as well it should be.
Yeah.
So I like it. I think it's good.
And it'll remind folks of that universally beloved game, Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor. So.
Oh, okay.
That
sure.
was a funny. I made a funny.
To be fair, they're
I
great.
don't know,
They're great games.
Oh, okay.
I'm told, yeah.
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 They've won awards, so I assume they're great.
Yeah, but I think I like it. I mean, it sounds dramatic enough as it is, and like Ken said, it does fit the theme. So, yeah, I could see that happening. Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on. Nikki, do you wanna take away the next one?
Sure. My first suggestion is, as it was last time, I believe, The Last Alliance. Because I don't know, you can do so much with that title. You can go Tolkien, The Last Alliance, The Lord of the Rings, The Last Alliance. You can add stuff to it, but the essence of it is that that's kind of pretty close to where the Second Age ends. It ends a little bit after The Last Alliance, and I feel like it would make sense even if we start in the middle of the Second Age or later in the Second Age, to sort of follow the storylines of the people that ended up in The Last Alliance and then tell the story of each of these people and how they ended up there in the end. Yeah, so that's my first suggestion.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's probably.
I think it's no big. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think it's no big secret. We listed them just to make sure that we didn't overlap. And I saw that one ahead of time, and I was like, oh, that's a good title. Oh, I wish I did that one. So yeah, that's a very good title.
Yeah, I think
it sounds right, and it's something that people know. So that's good.
Yeah, people are familiar with it, and I think that's ultimately where the show, or the penultimate show at least, is that's where it's going to culminate. So I think that's very suiting.
And I really like the finality of it, the last alliance. It sounds dramatic, so. Okay. Shall we move on, Kyle?
Sure. Yeah. So my number one pick was The Shadow in the East, which is a title that I had kind of made up for some concept artwork I was doing around the show, even though the show doesn't exist yet. So I'm kind of doing fan fiction art of fan fiction. But yeah, it comes from basically Gil-galad's letter to Meneldor, right? Him writing about this rising
Right.
threat in the east, and hopefully counting on Numenor's help if anything happens. So I think that's suitable for a show of men and elves.
Yeah, I like it.
I like it too.
Would watch. And like we said with the previous suggestion, I really like the mention of the shadow. I think we also did we have it in the prologue to the Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring? I think it was mentioned as well. So it's a nice little callback to that.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's maybe like a bit redundant because they're both like the Lord of the Rings and the Shadow in the East are both kind of like terms for
thing.
Sauron. So it's like, but it works.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so my first one is the one that was, I think it was voted the best suggestion on the panel that you guys did. It was The Age of the Rings. So I really like the sound of that. I think it sounds quite grandiose. To be fair, if this show is to take place mostly at the end of the Second Age, I don't think the other rings will have as big an importance as they would if the show was centered on the Forging itself. I think, Battle of the Last Alliance and everything, like the downfall of Numenor, it's much less about the other rings. But still, it is the age when the rings were forged, and I really like the sound of it. So
Could be the age of the ring.
okay,
Not rings,
yeah,
but
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
the ring.
Oh yeah,
But
sure.
it was given at the time when we thought or were hoping
Mhm.
for, hoping to be able to see the forging of the rings in detail. So
I think it's too early to give up hope, but sure.
yeah, I will never give up hope, but we will see.
Aw, you guys are so cute.
Yeah, I'll say it would be extremely suitable for like a early Second Age show, and maybe that's a possibility in the future after this show is the success of the world. We'll see.
I think they could still make a late Second Age show that would heavily involve the rings. So you could have, the Nazgul being very present. You could be seeing what the rings are doing to the dwarves. You could be seeing all the good stuff that is being made with the power of the three rings. But as it is, just like based on history books and stuff, like you guys said, yeah, they're not very prominent in that time. But I still really like the sound of it. So I think I'd be willing to forego a little bit of logic for some, a spectacle.
Yeah, it makes me wonder what other rings we'll see in this, and what kind of powers they'll have and what effects they'll have on people, and yeah, I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I think this show is a good opportunity to actually see what happened to the ring bearers and stuff. So
Yeah.
okay, shall we move into your second suggestion, Hen?
Yeah, sure. I'll just dig it up again. My second one was my least inspired, I think, which was the Wars of Middle Earth. It's very unlikely. It's a term that usually you don't put war or battle into titles of shows and movies. It tends to put a large portion of the audience off. I think though, where I got it from, there had been like games, I think, that had titles like this, didn't they? I didn't
And we
play
have the
them.
War of the Rohirrim coming up, so
Yeah, that as well, sure. So I think that was going through my mind when I jotted that down. So yeah, sure. I don't think it's very likely. But it, it's something.
Yeah, but I think people do like to put wars in titles actually, and I think there's a lot of audience for it as well. But I think
Yeah, sure.
doing that you risk alienating like the other half of the audience who just aren't interested in any sort of combat situations
Yeah,
whatsoever.
sure.
I wonder
It
who
will
might
be
be
a
an
part of the
example
show,
of
I
that.
think it's fair to say.
Sorry, Kyle, what did
I was just
you
gonna say, I wonder who might be an example of someone who doesn't want to see any war.
No
Yeah.
idea. I
Nah,
mean, you
Can't
know,
imagine.
Yeah.
nobody like that here.
But I think by naming a show, like putting war in the title, even though it works in many ways, you kind of subliminally, or you're kind of saying to your audience that this is going to be primarily about war. It's not going to tell
Yeah.
the story of
Yeah.
yeah, so it would
Yeah.
be in,
Likely.
if we're speaking Lord of the Rings movies, it would be Two Towers and not The Fellowship, or
Actually, that's yeah.
But
That's
then
a good
again, that
sequitur.
applies.
I didn't think of that. The original title for the second of two Lord of the Rings movies was The War of the Rings, so
Mhm.
so it's a good title suggestion. And I don't see why they shouldn't choose it. And I feel like the rules is sort of added as a no, because things keep changing all the time and people keep changing, what works and what doesn't and what they like and what they don't. So it's a possibility.
Okay. Do you want to give us your second one, Nikki?
Yes. So my second one is The Second Age, either alone or with Middle Earth, The Second Age, Lord of the Rings, The Second Age, or Tolkien, The Second Age,
Mhm.
depending on which one they think would be most effective
marketable.
marketing wise. Yeah.
I think it's the
I think
most.
this one is the most likely.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's the most obvious answer, and my only concern with that is that a casual audience member who knows the films, knows them inside and out, might think that The Second Age is a prequel or a sequel rather than a prequel.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's true. I didn't think of that. That's a possibility, of course. Then they might get
Yeah.
very confused. But then, I mean, they can always go to all of our YouTube channels to find the explanation for what it actually is.
Yes.
So
Good
Yeah,
point.
that
I
is
do-
true.
available.
That is true, but the audiences don't like to be confused in general.
Yeah, and I
But
do.
then
I do
again, I just have a quick one. I do think the marketing could lean very heavily into, setting this up as a prequel. So people will know what to expect.
That's true.
Yeah.
I will say too, the way the Return of the King ends, I don't think people would be expecting a sequel ever, really. There's even
Yeah.
the
I would hope not.
title card, which
Yeah.
I love. But yeah, sure, it's a tricky thing. And I do tend to shy away from titles that are kind of based on the setting, not on the situation. So Second Age, it's time frames, setting, same idea. So yeah, but it's very possible actually. I think it's very possible. Yeah.
Fantasy, like you wouldn't find those kind of titles in any other genre, I feel,
Mhm.
because it's kind of like a chapter or something, and it sounds very literature-ish. That's not a word, but
Sure.
kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like
So,
academic. I
but
know. I
for
know what you're saying.
fantasy, you can do that.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Who's next, Kyle?
Yeah. So my next one was the Cult of Morgoth, which is basically what happens on the island. So it would be very kind of Numenor specific, but I thought it sounded pretty badass, so I went with it.
Yeah, it
I
does.
would
It
love
does.
to see that story though. Like
Oh,
that
yeah.
storyline there is
Yeah.
very interesting because it is like a reflection of a lot of human history as well.
Yeah, sure.
And it shows both the darkness and the goodness in people and what hope does to people and what happens when faith gets corrupted, stuff like that. And it's just I think if we do see that in the show, which we probably will, whether it's a big part of it or not, it will be an interesting part because you'll have all these character arches that will actually be really intense, all these stories that will be very intense to watch. So
Yes.
good name.
Yeah, I'll have to
It's
wonder
super
what like
dramatic. Yeah.
what characters we get attached to over the course of the show that end up getting sacrificed to Melkor, right?
Yeah, sure. The one thing I'll say is that mentioning a name like that, which casual audiences won't necessarily know, it could be a little bit like I
That's
would
true.
imagine. Yeah, I would imagine they'd try and shy away from that, but sure, it's a good
It's a
title.
bit intimidating for sure.
That's true. I have a candidate for being sacrificed, possibly Kareen.
I
Maybe
think
that's her purpose.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people might
would
hope for
set up
that
the
after this
conflict.
week.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe just throw in like sacrifice her name, not the character.
Yeah.
But I think I like the title. I think it sounds a bit, maybe leaning into the horror direction a bit. But I think it's a bit narrow for a show that will span a lot of time before the Cult of Melkor was established, and will also cover a huge chunk of very important time after the downfall of Numenor as well.
Yes.
Okay. So, okay, anybody has any other comment on this one? We're moving on. Cool. So my second one is Lord of the Rings: The Age of Numenor. I I have a theme. A lot of my suggestions involve the age. I really like this one because I think Numenor has already been built up in the existing trilogies, or specifically in the Lord of the Rings, as this, a bit like a utopic place, this ideal that all the men strive towards. I think it. I really like the sound of it. I kind of want to see Numenor. I would be okay with a lot of titles that don't have Numenor in it, but I think it really sounds great, and I think it sounds appealing. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think
Any opinions?
I think you're right. I think a lot of the action centers around Numenor at that point in the age, so it makes sense to have that kind of as the main
I
piece.
like it too. I like it too, but I feel like just because we're going to be seeing most likely based on the information that we have at this point or that we don't have, that we think we might have, yes, we might see a lot of stuff in Numenor in season 1, but there are a lot more seasons, and I think that Numenor, they can go one of two ways. They can either just focus on Numenor for most of the show, or and end with the downfall of Numenor or whatever. Or they can focus on different areas of Middle Earth and all the way through. It really depends on what direction they choose to do it. If they want to take it as far as the Last Alliance, it doesn't make sense that they would call it, like, give the title of the show Numenor, but maybe a season or two they would call.
I thought of that as well. The way I see this could be solved is I don't expect Numenor to fall before the end of season 3. I don't think it's going to happen prior to that. Or maybe season 4. And I could see the title, still being relevant in the last season or last couple of seasons, in the sense that, the blood of Numenor prevails. It's the Numenorians in Middle Earth that thrive. So Numenor as the island is drowned, but the people survive. Sure. I don't think it's a particularly likely title. And all the objections that you said are absolutely valid. But I could maybe see that as a potential segue into using it.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, if we're going to follow Isildur all the way through because he's in the Last Alliance, then of course, something like that, or even something like the Blood of Numenor, or
yes,
something like
we have that one as well.
Great. Sorry.
Good segue. Good segue. Let's do that then.
Yeah.
Should we just
Go
do
for
it?
it.
Because
Yeah.
I had it in my.
Yeah.
I actually had it in my.
Go for it.
As one of the
Yeah.
crackpot suggestions.
Let's
So
just
yeah,
keep
okay.
moving.
So my next suggestion is the Blood of Numenor. Ha! Okay,
Yes.
my reasoning for this was, of course, it sounds super dramatic. We had it mentioned several times in the existing film trilogies. I'm not sure if it's mentioned quite as much in actual, Tolkien's literature. But in the film trilogies, it gets mentioned. I think Elrond says the blood of Numenor is all but spent. I think Boromir also mentions something blood of Numenor. So I think it sounds appropriately epic. What do you guys think?
I really like it. I think it works well on so many levels, right? Like it's representative of the bloodline, the kings and rulers of Numenor, and it's representative of the blood that Numenorians have on their hands, and it's representative of maybe this giant tidal wave that comes and devours Numenor and its people, right? I really like that personally. I could see it as even like a season name or an episode name. I'm really into it.
Yeah, it's a good name. It really is. And I wouldn't be opposed to them using that. The only thing that I would say against it would probably again be what I said before, and also by calling it that, you're making the show kind of scary to begin with
Yes.
from like viewer
Yeah.
perspective of the people who have no idea what the Lord of the Rings or Tolkien even is. They're gonna be like, "Oh no, you can't watch that. It has blood in the name. Oh my gosh."
Yes.
It sounds like a horror story or something. So,
Yeah.
that would the only thing I would say would be against calling it something like that, but it sounds kind of noble if you flip it the other way. It's like the Blood of Numenor, as in the bloodline, or Numenor ... bloodlines. Ooh, that sounds like a video game. Anyway.
Yeah, that was my thought as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you're next, Hen.
Yeah, sure. My next title was that one is in a sense very unlikely because I just took the Excalibeth, which would have been too obvious. Plus, it's one of Fellowship's sanctioned titles, and I look at in Quenya it's not Excalibeth. In Quenya it's let me find it.
I think a Calabeth is in Adonaic, right?
It is, yes, and in where did I jot it down? Oh right, it's Atalante. You see, so it's Atlantis basically.
Atlantis, yeah.
But it's and it's a cute like cross kind of reference type thing on Tolkien's part, but also could be on the part of the showrunners. I think it's very unlikely. Atlantis is. I think the showrunners wouldn't want to remind people of stuff that is outside Middle Earth in that way, and it's also especially now that it's. I think. It features in some superhero malarkey, doesn't it? Atlantis does. So yeah, sure. It's very unlikely, and also being a non-English name, being a term from, it's a little bit too mysterious. But I do like the sound of it. I think it's pretty.
Yeah, I think it's cool for people like us, right? Like people who know what it is
Yes.
and know what it means. But for a casual viewer, it's a WTF moment.
Yeah. It's too enigmatic.
Yeah,
That's the word.
yeah.
I don't think I really mind the fact that it's really close to Atlantis, because I don't think it's close enough that people would immediately think Atlantis.
Until they see the show.
But as long as it's just... Yeah?
As the series goes on, I think they will.
Yeah. But then they will be like, is that a coincidence? Or I don't know. I think it could work. But like you guys said, I think it's very unlikely because they'll want to draw the audiences in. They'll play up the familiarities, and I just think it would alienate like too many casual viewers.
Like, what is that? Yeah.
How do you even pronounce that, right? If you don't know.
Yeah.
It is interesting
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
When you think about it, like there are shows that are like prequels that don't make sense. Like the name doesn't make sense. Kind of like that show Cursed, which is like a prequel to King Arthur and the Sword in the Stone. but it's called Cursed. And unless you invest time and watch it and read about it, you don't understand that that's what it is about.
Yeah,
And a lot
sure.
of shows are
Mhm.
like that when they do prequels.
But then you
It was.
understand what cursed means. With
Yes.
a
Yes.
calabash, you're
That's
like
true.
the what?
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
True.
true. That's true.
Which I think
Yes.
it could be a possibility for, but not for a show as expensive as this one.
Yes.
I think they'll want to go very mainstream with the
Yeah,
title as
yeah.
well.
Yes.
Not so
Yeah.
niche.
It could be suitable for like an anime style one. Or
Yeah.
Definitely.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, your next one, Nikki.
Yes. So this one is the one that I think makes the least sense, but it was the one I could think of. Lord of the Rings: The Tale of Years, which is just because I was trying to be, what's it called? I was trying to be intelligent. I was trying to think like people who make up names for marketing things,
Mhm.
and that's the name of one of the appendices in Tolkien's
Mm.
work of books that has any relation to the Second Age. And you can't call it Appendix B because that would be weird. So then I said, The Tale of Years. Yeah.
I kind of want to see that though.
Appendix B.
No, I
Lord
like.
of the
It
Rings.
would work as a
Appendix B.
chapter title, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it would for sure. I like
Funny.
that. I like that it's directly taken from Tolkien. I think it's part of History of Middle Earth somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So I do
Of
like.
Years?
Yeah, Tale of Years.
Isn't
Yeah.
it Appendix B of Lord of the Rings?
Is it?
No, The Tale of Years is the sixth book, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
No, the 12th book in the series.
Something like that.
History of Middle Earth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Suppose
So I
just
I appreciate it for that part of it.
Yeah.
I really like the sound of it, and I like anything with tale or
Yeah.
legend or
Yeah.
whatever. So this sounds good.
Yeah.
But I think it's a bit
fantasy title.
unspecific.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a great fantasy title, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Sounds like a book
Mm.
in a
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Could be Tales of Numenor, but
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
still a little bit lofty. I feel like for high fantasy like The Lord of the Rings, you kind of have to get down to the point. It has to be so on point, the title,
Mhm.
that it just everybody
Yes.
who reads it is like, oh, I understand what this is, even if they don't even really know what Tolkien is.
Yeah. Exactly.
That does bring up a good point, which I'll save for the, let's call them closing remarks. So, yeah.
Okay, Kyle.
My next one is just the Ring of Power, singular. I know we talked about this a bit earlier, but I think for the period that we're assuming most of this show takes place in, it might make a little bit more sense.
Mm. And this one wouldn't need the Lord of the Rings in front either, because it's.
We can talk about
I mean, that
after
would
too.
be.
I have some ideas around that.
Okay. Do you wanna share them with us?
I think that no matter what the title is, we're getting the Lord of the Rings in front of it. I think it's possible that we even get just the Lord of the Rings and then have names of seasons and episodes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be really
Yeah.
interesting, like a sort of anthology
Yeah,
style naming.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. Even not just an anthology. It's like in the way that the different Lord of the Rings entries have names. It'd be pretty cool. It would be as though each season were a movie and has a cool idea.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like they've taken on this show and they've invested so much money in it and they're gonna make it. This would never have happened probably never have happened if the films weren't as big a success as they were.
Yeah.
And a pioneer in its field in a way, because high fantasy there wasn't really that much of it, and what he did with it. So it would be a good idea to sort of keep going on that marketing wise and coasting on the already established brand name of the stories that we're trying to tell here, but at the same time it's the least creative because it's not the Lord of the Rings. Like the Second Age isn't the story. It is the story of Sauron, but it's the story of so much more than that as well. So I feel like if
Yeah.
they're going to use it, they're using it solely for marketing purposes. But then again, Star Wars is called Star Wars ... every single movie. So
Even though that was the title of the original movie
Yeah.
and not the title of the series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the new ones, I
and
think like The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett, they're both a Star Wars story or something like that.
yeah, that's
So
that's
that's-
a new naming convention.
Yeah, that'll be
But I
interesting.
will say, computer games in Middle Earth are almost consistently, I think, called the Lord of the Rings something,
Yeah.
right? Aren't they?
I think
because
so.
it's a brand name, it's something that people
Yeah.
know, understand, and recognize. Because even the people who haven't read books like Silmarillion
Yeah.
can relate to and can understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
And I think just the Ring of Power, I think this show could be just about the story about the Ring of Power itself in the Second Age. You know, the show could begin with the forging itself, and of course could end with Isildur losing the ring, possibly. That's where I think it will end. So, in essence, it is a very fitting title.
Yep.
Yeah, it is the same story. It's the same central conflict. So yeah, sure, it
Yeah,
works.
Okay. My next one is The Realms of Middle-earth. I'm not crazy about this one in the sense of content itself, but I really love the sound of it. If they put out a book tomorrow that would be titled The Realms of Middle-earth, I'd just like buy the heck out of it. I think it's a very generic title as well. It doesn't really say much about the story itself. But I think Middle-earth has a lot of appeal for the casual viewer. And I think people that have seen the movies would be pretty drawn to it.
I think it's
Yeah.
a nice title. It sounds magical. Still, I get the vibe of you know, comic books and fairy tales and anime and stuff like that. But it's I would watch it and I would not complain.
I think that might be the problem, what you just mentioned, that it does sound very fairy tale-ish, and I don't expect this show to be particularly fairy tale-like.
No.
Yes.
So,
Hope not. Yeah.
well,
Yeah, it's maybe a bit not practical, but it's I think it goes really well with
All right minds.
with the
Yeah,
plot synopsis that we
agreed.
got, right?
Agreed.
Right.
okay.
So, next one. I have the next one in my head. The next one is very similar to the previous one. It's just Westerness, which is another name for Numenor. It's technically English, so it's not. And actually, that's a good like trivia. It doesn't really tell us anything, but years and years ago, there was, I think, a website that someone opened. It was very shortly after the Lord of the Rings trilogy had concluded, and he was like thinking, well, what is the next thing that we could potentially see from this series? And he was like, well, there's the Hobbit, okay, and like, what's next? And then like, there's the Silmarillion, when that's not very approachable. So the best idea would be a prequel. Now it seems visionary, a prequel about Numenor, and he called it Westerness. It was just somebody's idea. It wasn't anything to do with the show or anything, but it's, looking at it back now with 2020 hindsight, it's kind of funny. And it is it's a cute title. It's technically English. It sounds nice.
Yeah, it's whimsical sounding almost.
A little bit, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, and we do know that their their early marketing has centered a lot around Numenor. They're really establishing it as a really important, area really early on. So I think a title including that would be really fitting, even though it, most viewers wouldn't immediately know what it means. But yeah, I think it's really
Yes.
fitting. I'd like it.
Not the ending of the Second Age, because Numenor does end up eventually not being a part of the rest of the story there, but the people of Numenor will continue to carry on.
Yeah.
Mm.
I always like to think
So-
of Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to think of Gondor and Arnor of the late second, up to after, until like it becomes a steward handled thing. So long as it's under the High King, I tend to think of them as Numenorian realms in exile, like as, in the same sense that you think of Constantinople as Rome. So I do think names that are Numenorians or allude to Numenor are also fitting for the period immediately after its deluge. So
Yeah, I agree with that.
Mm. You would have to have the Lord of the Rings before it though, because you would have no clue
yeah,
what it's about.
yeah, absolutely. I think at this point we've all really made our peace with the idea that it will, in all likelihood, be Lord of the Rings thumping.
Yeah. I think it's either Lord of the Rings or just Middle Earth and then something.
Yeah, it could also be, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's much. Of course, Lord of the Rings is much more marketable. So
Yeah.
Mm.
okay, Nikki, it's your turn now.
This is my fourth time now. Yes.
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Wars of the Rings. So it's kind of like playing on the Lord of the Rings, but Second Age is also referred to, or at least parts of the Second Age is referred to as the Wars of the Rings, which is a nice play of words and also true because there wasn't just one war and there wasn't just one ring, there were several, and there were several battles on several different places and areas with different characters. So I feel it could be fitting in some way.
I like it.
Yeah, the only problem I can see with it is that it's the same acronym as the War of the Rohirrim.
Oh,
All right.
that is
Right.
true.
Well,
That's
to be
unfortunate.
fair, War of the Rohirrim is fairly new. I wonder if at the stage in which Amazon will have come up with a title, if they were aware that War of the Rohirrim was
Yeah.
already a thing.
Yeah.
But the title hasn't been set in stone yet. I think.
There's that. Yeah, there's
So-
that as well. Sure.
Because all film and TV productions will operate under several, at least one, if not several, cover names or
Yeah,
like
working
tentative
titles.
names, working titles,
Yeah. Yeah.
to both to cover up what production they're actually shooting, and also because you never know, like all of a sudden a different name will come to you as you're
Sure.
watching the final cut, and you're just like, that's it, that's what we have to call it.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings was Jamboree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aw. Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. But I like the sound of it though.
hmm
I think it does have a lot of appeal.
It fits for sure.
Okay. Kyle, I think you're next.
My next one is The Legend of Numenor, or you could go The Legends of Numenor.
I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, we
And-
didn't have like legend and stuff in our titles thus far, haven't we?
Not yet.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like it. Yeah.
It's for me. It's the same as with the tale of the years, as Nikki mentioned. I really love all those sorts of stuff in titles, tales, legends. Gimme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and especially given that in the Third Age, what we've heard of Numenor in the existing film trilogies, everything does sound so mythical and so idealized and everything. So I think the legend fits with that very well.
It does fit very
That's
well.
cool.
And it does tell the story. I mean, we know, at least we think we know, parts of what the storyline is. And that's basically what it's telling. So could make sense.
And it's not a bad idea to frame the story of the Second Age from the perspective of the Third Age as a legend. That's kind of a cool little thing. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
cool. I like it.
I like it too. Um, okay, my fourth suggestion surprisingly includes age. And so it's Lord of the Rings, The Age of Men. Now, I was a bit iffy whether I wanted to include this one or not, especially given that I think the actual Age of Men is probably the fourth age. But the second age is the age during which the men were at their peak. The Numenorian society, the Numenorian culture is presented as one of the strongest cultures in the military sense, as an influence on later ages and other cultures. So I think it could fit.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. I thought about it and I was like, wait, that's not until after the elves leave Middle Earth that's really called the Age of Men. But it is the golden age of men.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
yeah, that's when
It
they
is
were at
also
their
golden
prime.
age of elves too, but sure.
Yeah.
Really kind of the golden age of everybody, really. It's the golden age of except in Valinor, but that's cheating. And it's the golden age of the dwarves, really, as well. At least of Moria, certainly.
Yeah, we don't get to
Middle
hear
Earth,
much
the
about.
golden age.
Oh,
The golden age of everybody.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sure.
I think the late second age talks mostly about Numenor, though, so I think it's fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It is.
For sure.
Okay. Hen, your last suggestion?
My last one was off the cuff, really, was the line of Elendil, because that's mentioned in, I think, certainly in Tolkien, but I think even in the movies they say it. I don't think it's very likely because Elendil is in the thing. And I think as the show starts, as it starts at least, they don't want people to see Elendil and go, it's that guy from the title. Especially because his name isn't mentioned in the movies very much, so casual fans wouldn't know him very well. They know Isildur, it's mentioned quite a lot, but not Elendil.
Isn't he mentioned like only in Bypass? Because I remember Aragorn jumps down with his
Yes.
sword and he's like, Elendil. And then
Yes, and in a conversation with Galadriel once, I think, and
Yeah.
that's it, really.
And then people, I remember when I first saw it, I hadn't read the book, and I was like, "Who is that? Who is this? Is this like some sort of nickname for Aragorn? What is this?" And then I read the book. Right.
Yeah, because we don't see him, and you don't really see much of him in the prologue. I think just frames.
Yeah. Just a shot.
So yeah, but it does set up the action nicely.
I wonder then.
It's
It
a nice
does.
title.
Along the same lines, I wonder what about like the line of Elros or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that one. But what I like about the line of Elendil is that, Elendil does actually appear in the show as opposed to Elros. And I even really like the fact that I don't expect him to be the main character. I think he's going to be one of the, 10 main characters, but I would expect Isildur to have a more prominent role even than Elendil. So I really like the idea of the show being named after a character that's not, the main character per se.
Yeah, I like that too.
A bit like, having the Lord of the Rings named the Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
After a character that, again, does not take the center stage as such. So I like this similarity. Okay. I think you're next, Nikki.
Yeah. My last suggestion is either Tolkien, Middle Earth, the Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth, or both of those two, like Tolkien or the Lord of the Rings ... and then Tales of Middle Earth. Yeah.
You have my sword.
Yeah. It is. It works either way. It works because you get curious about what is this about if you've never heard of Tolkien, and if you have, you will understand instantly what it's about. And it's basically telling the story of Middle Earth before the movies that we all know and love, or know and some love, most love.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It definitely makes me
I will say
wonder,
there was a
like,
movie titled Tolkien, and it didn't do very well money-wise, so. So
But then
using
again-
that
Yeah,
in a
alright.
title, yeah.
I liked it.
it does make
I liked
too.
it.
I'm
I didn't love
saying
it.
especially. Yeah.
it does make me wonder how many, like, how often Tolkien's name will be invoked throughout the series or the marketing or anything like that, because we know that the show is going to be coming out on the anniversary of his death. So I do wonder.
Yeah, which is
That's true.
I'm sure there will
that
be a
that
based
wasn't a
on.
strike of genius on Amazon's part.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
I'm
that's
not
just
sure.
weird.
I'm not sure what the deal is with that.
Well, considering the fact that the Tolkien estate is involved in this, to exactly what extent we don't know, but it's some extent.
hmm
I mean, they wouldn't be opposed to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's a good point. We have to keep in mind that they would have had to have some hand in that at some point. So that's a good point.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like it. I really, really, really want to see Middle Earth in the title. If we got Middle Earth in any sort of composition, I would really love that. And the Tales of Middle Earth, yes, sign me up. I absolutely love it. It's maybe
sounds
it's not.
magical.
It sounds magical, but maybe it doesn't really, really represent what we're getting per se. Again, the Tales of Middle Earth sounds like, to me, that sounds like an anthology of mythological just tales. But I do love the sound of it nonetheless.
What about this? Oh, I don't know if that's gonna work.
Ooh.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Unfinished Tales of Numenor and Middle Earth, or just
Okay.
Tales of Numenor and Middle Earth.
Yeah.
I suppose, yes, but maybe because they don't have the rights for that one, they can't use the title of that one.
And I think people would be very, wary of watching something with unfinished in the title. I mean,
Absolutely.
after Game of Thrones.
Oh no.
yeah. And be like, what is this?
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to commit to this.
Yeah.
Like my partner, he always says if there's only one season, he won't watch it because he's worried that they'll cancel it after the first season, and then he's committed to the first season.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, at least you get to watch the first season.
Yeah.
True.
Gosh.
That
Unfinished,
makes
yeah.
me think of the Dark Crystal. Such a
Oh,
shame.
don't. No,
I know,
no. That's
such a shame.
still. I still have hope. I still think that somebody's gonna pick that
That was
one
a
up
good
at some
show.
point.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
so
I liked
good.
it.
Yeah.
I loved it, and it was so dark, like
Yeah.
super dark for a children's show, basically.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think we were a bit off topic.
A little bit.
Anyway, back to the point.
Okay. Kyle, do you want to give us your last suggestion?
Yeah, so my last one is one we already talked about quite extensively, and it's just The Lord of the Rings. You know, like I said, give us the show titled The Lord of the Rings, and then give us episodic titles and season titles, basically.
It's a very real option that they could go for, because they have already said specifically that each season will have their own sort of subtitle. And then, of course, every episode in a TV series has a name. So they can get really creative with all of these, which I think is good and exciting.
Yeah. We also know that the show is based on the appendices of The Lord of the Rings, so it's completely appropriate to call it that.
It is.
I don't think they officially ever said that we're gonna be getting season subtitles, though. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's one of our.
I think it's our theory.
It's our it's come up in spy reports, that type of thing a while ago. So yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's not
But
it's not an official from Amazon, but I think it's pretty likely actually. I think it's a good idea.
I think I read it somewhere too. Can't remember where I read it, but
On Reddit.
Promedia.
Oh, okay, possibly. I would love the idea, and I think it's the safest pick for them, but it could get a bit confusing for the audiences who would go in. And even as it is, a lot of my friends have heard of the upcoming show and they're expecting to see Gandalf and Frodo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of
So
my friends too are like, "Oh, that's stupid. Why are they remaking
Yeah.
the movies?" And I'm
Yeah.
looking at them like, "What are you talking
Yeah.
about? They're not remaking anything."
Yeah.
yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
Yeah.
So I
That's
think
the-
a title like this might confuse people a lot.
exactly.
Yeah.
If a casual fan is going in thinking that they're watching a TV version of the movies they've already seen, it doesn't make a ton of sense.
Mm.
and then they'd be very confused. It's like, you know, when you have a glass and you think it's milk and then it's
Mhm.
actually juice. It's kind
Yeah.
of, it's
Ugh.
not a pleasant surprise. And although
Yeah.
you're loving the show once you get into it, watching the first episode, expecting to see a TV version of The Lord of the Rings, and then seeing something and with characters that you have no clue who are, you're just like,
Mm.
okay, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Premise
I
is
think
very different. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this could easily be remedied, like we mentioned earlier, with the heavy marketing and everything, and they could really present it as a prequel. But then again, why would you want the audiences to be confused at all whatsoever?
Yeah. Just
So
make it as simple as
Yeah.
possible for
at
people
any
to
point,
understand.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay, so my last suggestion is the Rise of Sauron. I think this is a very, very cliche title. I don't particularly like it. But then again, like you guys mentioned before, when it comes to titles, people often want to stick with what is, familiar. And this template is very, very familiar. So,
And it's also a real option. I think we had that on our list last time we did this.
Probably.
As it is likely, but then we were discussing whether or not it was going to be Anatar or Sauron. If it's the Rise of Anatar, then it wouldn't really,
no.
it would get confusing again because they're not using the brand name of Sauron.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the main use of using Sauron, to draw in the audiences who are going to be expecting like a sort of, villain origin story with this,
Yeah.
which isn't exactly what they would be getting.
Yeah,
So
but still. Yeah, and it's good because you would expect Sauron to be very much in the shadows in the beginning, certainly.
Yeah.
So to
Yeah.
have the promise of the title in that first stretch is a good thing.
Yeah.
You know,
I think the
just
creative
wait,
team.
audience.
I think the creative team are going to have us play a guessing game of who Sauron is, right? I think we can certainly expect to see.
I thought that was a real possibility back when we thought the show might be centered around the forging.
Yeah.
But if we're tackling the forging in the first 2 episodes and then centering on the late Second Age, I don't think the identity of Sauron will be kept secret for long.
Hard to say though.
No,
It depends
definitely
on how they go about it.
Yeah, true.
No,
If
I
they
guess
don't,
we
if they
don't
don't,
know.
yeah, we'll just have to wait
we'll
and
can
see.
just
only
have to wait
guess.
and see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have a little bonus, a so-called crackpot round.
Little Easter egg.
A little Easter egg. Please don't take these suggestions too seriously. Though I gotta say, if Amazon does pick anything from this list, they get my respect.
Yeah. Yeah, because then they're brave.
They're really brave and not afraid to look a little bit wonky,
Uh,
which I don't think it will happen. But okay, can we start this one with Kyle, please, because he's got the MVP suggestion of the
Sure.
day.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I hope everyone's sitting down for this one. The King of the Bling.
Take my money.
Need I say more?
Bring
No.
it on.
Yeah.
That would be the 20th anniversary wrap that they make.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna build on that. Sure.
We can see.
That was such a lost opportunity,
Yeah.
Oh.
What do you do? Colbert, if
What a
you're
shame.
if give me a
Yeah.
call. Give me a call.
Yeah. It could
Yeah.
be like the Lord of the Rings, but set in today's age.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like they do in theater. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love it. It's hilarious. I loved it from first I heard it. So my suggestion for this round is Numenor, the Legends of the Fall. I like
It'd be
this one.
interesting to see how many of our audiences would understand that
yeah.
reference.
Absolutely. But still, even for those that don't understand it, it still, tells a story about what we're seeing in the show. And for those that are familiar with cheesy 90s melodrama, it'll be that extra little something.
That would again go back to the whole, the like 80s, 90s cartoons. Like, I don't know if anyone watched
Oh, it's not a
Pirates of
cartoon, but yeah, sure.
Blackwater or like, no, I know that, but like the name of it could work
Yeah.
for something like Pirates of Blackwater or The Sword in the Stone, like really, really
Mhm.
old
Mhm.
cartoons. Then it would
Mhm.
be Numenor, Legends of the Fall. Work.
I like it.
Yeah, yeah. Or a spoof.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
It's a lot of
yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Nikki, do you want to give us yours?
Yes. So early on in this whole Lord of the Rings TV show discussion, very early on, when they first started drafting this and talking about it, there was a rumor going around about it being about Aragorn's origin. So my suggestion is Aragorn origin, which is like wordplay. It's silly. And based on bloodlines, it is his origin. But I'm hoping we don't actually get to the point of seeing his origin because I don't know. I feel like we've already seen that, but hey, no judgment. If they want to show it, it's fine. I'll still watch it.
We're here for it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'd watch it for sure.
Oh yeah.
I love it. I like it. I think the audiences would be expecting a whole different show.
Mm-hmm.
But, shake them up a bit.
That's right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's a very long origin story. It's like when people like, so what's your origin story? It's like, well, when my great great grandfather did this, then this happened, and
Yeah.
then you finally get to the point, and then I was born. Yeah,
Oh.
I like
good
it.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Okay, and yours, Hen?
Oh, mine's off the cuff, and I was thinking about that 20th anniversary rap party when I called it the Stephen Colbert Show. So yeah, it is
Okay.
the Stephen Colbert Show.
Okay. I like it.
Sure. Bring it
I
on.
like it. It's
I mean,
recognizable.
Realistically, he could
Yeah,
be
it is.
he could be the lead Tolkien scholar
I
on the
think I heard
show.
it somewhere, you know.
Yeah.
It would really be his show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Okay.
Cool.
I think we covered all the options. Anybody has any late, epiphanies that they want to add to the bunch that we've collected? No. Okay.
Well, I think we've exhausted all of our options.
Yeah.
But
So
if
which
anyone
ones do you
has
guys
any
like
other
best?
Suggestions, they should put them in the comments below.
Yes. Please do
Yes,
that.
please.
While they're liking and subscribing
Of course.
as well.
Of course.
Yeah.
All three of
that-
those
all
things
that
at the same
jazz.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. You'll have to
Um,
excuse me. I'm not very well today, so if I'm a little weird, that would be why.
Oh, at least you have an excuse, Um,
Unlike some of us.
yeah, exactly. Okay, so this was a lot of fun. I can't wait to see what Amazon comes up with. I hope we get to find out very, very soon. It was
Do
an
something
enormous.
like we should have like an award for the one of us who gets the right title should get like an award of some sort.
Let's do that.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do that.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'm up for it.
Yeah.
If anybody has any suggestions, just put them in the comments below, etc. Okay, so thanks everybody for joining us today, and thanks to all my lovely co-hosts. First of all, thank you, Nikki, for making
Thank
it
you.
through to the end.
Oh, I'm surprised I did, to be honest, but can't remember anything I said, so don't hold me accountable. But thank you.
I never
it's been
can,
fun.
so it was amazing. And thank you, Hen. It was lovely
Thank you.
seeing you again.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, sure. It's always nice to do these things. It was great fun.
Yeah, indeed. And last but not least, again, Kyle, thanks for joining us this evening.
Lovely to be here. Thanks so much for hosting, and let's do it all again soon.
Let's. So thanks for watching, and until the next time, goodbye.